I am the sole provider for my family of 6, partner and 4 kids, 2 high-energy dogs. I work 5 days a week and sometimes work on weekends if we need a little more cash. My partner is a stay-at-home mom and hasn't worked since our eldest was born. By her own choice, I wake up at 5 a.m. and take the dogs out. Prepare kids' lunches, snacks, ensure all school essentials such as bags, etc. are at front door, then head to work in a physically demanding job. Kids are picked up for daycare/school at 7 due to after-school activities and clubs, etc. They're not home until 6. I come home at 7 and make dinner most nights. Help with homework, do bath time for the little ones, do dishes, take dogs out for longer walk again, put little ones in bed. If the house is a mess, I will of course clean it. I pay for everything: mortgage, bills, insurance, groceries, clothes, toys, technology, after-school activities, dates, a woman to deep clean the house once a month. My partner wants to go on a 2-week-long vacation with her friends, which will overlap with the weekend away. I had planned with my brother, who I rarely get to see as we live so far away. She wants me to cancel my trip as she's tired and needs a break. We got into an argument over it in which unkind things were said on both sides, but I am unwilling to budge on this. How do I get through to her that I need some rest? My children are between 16 and 6. My wife doesn't take anyone to their club/activities. Younger children's school finishes at 3 p.m. Their clubs are in the school. Older kids' school finishes at 3:30. They stay in a club until 4:30 and then go to a youth group with their cousins until they come home. My eldest make their way to and from school on their own, while my youngest are picked up and dropped off. Kids are of course able to eat breakfast at home, but often enjoy eating with their friends before school starts at 8. My wife doesn't walk the dogs because she doesn't like to, and frankly, they don't like her. I enjoy my time walking the dogs because it allows me some time to think. We have a large yard with dog houses, toys, and some agility equipment for them to use while I'm gone. They also get mental stimulation through Kongs and puzzle toys, which have been prepared and stored in the freezer. What does my wife do all day? Honestly, she's not isolated. She often tells me of things she's done with her friends, sister, mother, etc. She goes to the gym, does and enjoys hobbies such as embroidery, knitting, and some jewelry design. She changes what she likes to do, says it keeps things fresh. Housework-wise, she does the laundry, I fold and distribute later. She will give dogs water and prepared meals/enrichment. We have those robot vacuums and air purifiers to deal with the dog hair, but my wife will vacuum if needed. I wipe countertops, put dishes in dishwasher after meals. The older kids take care of their own rooms/bathrooms for an allowance. Have you ever not truly noticed something until it's right in front of your face? I was so mad because I wanted to go see my brother, and she wanted to go on vacation with her friends. Yes, she wants me to pay for it. And things have been like this for so long that I didn't see how unfair and imbalanced things were until I truly started to look at how our duties were distributed. You've all given me a lot to think about. I'll answer some comments later. Now for the update. Here is the update. It's not good. It's not totally bad either, because apparently I've sprouted a backbone. A lot has happened, and I feel like my world is falling apart. Some of you have suggested that I enable her behavior, and I'd like to address it, to explain how things got this way to begin with. My wife worked from age 16 to 20, but I'd often come home after work during the early stages of her pregnancy, and she would tell me of how bad the morning sickness had been and how she was getting in trouble at work for being late or not turning up due to the issues she was having. One night, after a long discussion about things, she suggested that it would be easier and better for her and the baby if she stayed home during the pregnancy. I was reluctant at first because we weren't exactly swimming in cash, but ultimately the health of my wife and child were more important than a few months of added stress. To save money, we moved in with my wife's older sister and her husband. We split rent and utilities, but we're still saving some money. The pregnancy wasn't easy on her. She was often cranky and uncomfortable, and as a result, could be quite mean, rude, and a bit handsy. So after further discussions with my wife and her sisters, I took on more of the household duties such as cooking, etc. When my eldest was born, my wife's sister helped with childcare while I was at work for the first year. But after she and my wife had a fight when he was about a year old, we moved into our own place. But my wife struggled during the day when I wasn't there to help, so we ultimately decided to put him in another daycare facility. I would drop him off on my way to work and would pick him up on my way back home when I finished. Once home, one of us would cook dinner while the other watched the baby. Back then, we had no pets, so household duties weren't too much and could be handled by a couple hours cleaning on Saturday or Sunday when we could split it between us both. When my son was 3, my wife's sister offered to get her a job where she worked. My wife had to do an interview, but my sister-in-law was confident she'd get the position. My wife was reluctant and nervous about returning to work, but attended the interview and was offered the job. I don't remember much of our celebrations that night, but it ended in the conception of our second child. My wife told me when she'd been at her new job for just over a month. She stuck it out for a couple more weeks, but was fired due to not turning up for shifts. I asked one of her doctors about the issues she was having so early in the pregnancy: back pain, leg pain, nausea, etc. But my wife cut me off before I could finish and asked me to leave the room. When we got home, she berated me for speaking to her doctor like she was a child and told me that if she wants something brought up to her doctor regarding her pregnancy, she'd do it herself. I had embarrassed her because she knew her body and knew what was normal and what wasn't. I still thought the issues had to be addressed with her doctor, but whenever I brought it up, her mood swings would get worse. My mother-in-law came to live with us when my second was born for a short while when I returned to work after my paternity leave. When my daughter was about 4 months old, my wife expressed she was having difficulty looking after her by herself during the day, but my mother-in-law, who had her own life and responsibilities, couldn't come back and stay indefinitely. We had a male 2-bedroom apartment then, and having her sleep on the couch didn't seem fair to me. So we enrolled my daughter in daycare while my son was at nursery. My son went to daycare after nursery as well, so I'd pick them both up around 6 p.m. and head home. My wife promised she would speak to her doctor about the possibility of depression, etc., and her mood did improve with the additional help with the children. My wife took on cooking and cleaning duties then, but struggled as well. I would often come home to burned, ruined food and would need to make something else anyway. So I ended up cooking dinner most nights so we wouldn't be wasting food. During a weekend away for a friend's wedding, when my daughter was 5, I suggested that my wife go back to work. Both kids were in school now, and I thought we could improve our lifestyle with 2 incomes. We had recently bought a house because the apartment was too small for us, and the children needed their own rooms. She seemed hesitant, which I understood after being out of work for so long, but she agreed. She applied for several positions, but had no luck with interviews or callbacks. We found out she was pregnant with our 3rd not long after that, and returning to work was put on hold again. The pregnancy was difficult as expected, but again, my mother-in-law came to stay when I had to return to work. She stayed for a while, but had to return to her own home eventually. Before she left, my wife told me that she feared she would struggle with our second daughter just as she had the first 2. I tried to reassure her, but she seemed to become insanely depressed the second her mother left. I would return home with the 8 and 5-year-old to a screaming baby and nothing done around the house. Her mood and actions affected the entire house, so reluctantly I put her second daughter in daycare as well. But I told my wife she had to talk to her doctor and that we'd no longer be having any more children. She was mad and we had a huge fight about it. But I got a vasectomy and she accepted it. We've always used protection. My wife is on birth control and I always use condoms. But given that it had already failed twice for us, I didn't want it to happen again. But obviously the universe had other plans for us, and our 3rd daughter was born 2 years after our second, when we were celebrating a promotion I'd gotten at work. Obviously, this is a brief summary of events, and there have been several other moments through the years when I've suggested she go back to work, but I thought I'd try to provide further background for those who are curious about how we got to where we are. Someone asked if my wife has had a break recently. She has never taken 2 weeks away before, but she goes away a couple of times every year for weekend trips with family and friends. The longest she has been gone is a week. In regards to the dogs and why they don't like her, she doesn't like them. She thinks the mental stimulation I provide through Kong toys, games, puzzles, etc. is unnecessary, but freaks out if their energy levels are too high. One is a German Shepherd, which I was gifted for my birthday, and the other is a German Shepherd Malinois mix my wife brought home because she thought our GSD needed a friend. Yes, they have been to training and were originally in doggy daycare for the first couple of years. Now for the update. So, as one of you suggested, I took a day off of work. I genuinely wasn't feeling too good either, but I intended to speak to my wife about the situation while the children were at school. Kids all left for school by 7-ish. My wife came downstairs at 11:45 and seemed very shocked to see me. She asked what I was doing at home, and I explained I took a sick day as I wasn't feeling well. The first words out of her mouth were, "But we need the money. You don't look that bad." I made a face, and she quickly asked what was wrong and asked if she could get me anything. I asked for water, and we sat on the couch, but soon her phone rang, and she went off into the kitchen to talk. She came back a while later and asked if I wanted to get something to eat, and I said we could make something from the kitchen. She said she wanted to go out, and I said we could order takeout, but I wasn't in the mood to go out. The dogs had been sitting by the chest freezer waiting in the pantry for their lunchtime enrichment for 10 minutes now, and I asked if she was going to feed them. She flopped onto the couch and asked me to get it. I said no. She asked again, and I said no again. She glared at me, but eventually got up and gave it to them. She asked me to take her out again several times, and I kept saying no. I was starting to get a migraine, which I told her, but she kept asking, suggesting we could go shopping, she could get her nails done, and we could enjoy the day together. I refused, said we had something to talk about, and she said we would then went upstairs. She came back down 40 minutes later, dressed up, and said if I wasn't going to take her out, she'd go herself. I tried to get her to sit down so we could talk, but she blew me a kiss at the door and rushed outside without even locking it. While she was out, I took some of your advice and canceled the cleaning lady we have. I apologized to her as I really did like her, but she was very understanding, and I think we parted on good terms. She returned home at 8 p.m. and immediately asked where dinner was. I told her the kids and I had already eaten. She asked where her dinner was, and I told her she'd have to make something for herself. She said she'd just order something, and I told her no. This gave her pause, and she looked at me like I just told her she had to starve. She said she couldn't cook, and I told her I know she's perfectly capable of making something. We have plenty of foods. It's not like she has to be Gordon Ramsay to stick a tin of soup or something on the stove. She left again and returned 30 minutes later with McDonald's for herself, which set the younger kids off. Yes, they'd already eaten, but she walked in the door finishing her burger and drink with an empty bag and McFlurry tub. Our youngest asked why she didn't bring her any ice cream, and my wife said, "Daddy said I wasn't allowed to." I did not say this, and I swear it took more strength than I'd like to admit not to yell at her in front of our daughter. When the kids were in bed, I asked her to sit and talk about the situation regarding our trips. She asked if I'd rescheduled with my brother, and I firmly told her no, and that I wouldn't be. I tried to have a conversation. I explained I felt our duties were incredibly uneven, and that I'd like for her to take on more responsibilities with the children and the house. She argued that she does enough, and I asked her to make a list. She put laundry down, feeding the dogs, making doctor's appointments, and grocery shopping. And I brought out my own list with everything I've told you guys so far and added that I created the dogs' meals. She simply has to give it to them. I fold and distribute laundry, take kids to doctor's appointments, and that the groceries are ordered through an app on her phone, delivered to the house, and I put them away. She got up then. I asked what she was doing, and she said she was going upstairs. I didn't argue. I didn't want it to resolve to an argument and wake the kids up. She was visibly shaking with anger. A while later, I went upstairs as well. She was on the phone to someone, and when I entered the room, she demanded I leave and go sleep on the couch. I refused and climbed into bed. She hung up the phone and demanded again that I sleep on the couch, and again, I refused. She grabbed me and physically tried to drag me out. That resulted in a fight, and I ended up sleeping on the couch because she was going to wake the kids up again. The following days were much of the same. I have stopped folding and putting away her laundry. I do it for myself and the younger kids, and my two oldest take their piles and put them away themselves. I still cook for the kids, but have told my wife that she has to make her own meals. Petty, I know. I think my eldest heard us arguing because he asked if he could take the dogs out for a couple walks with his friend during the week. He has, and he says he's enjoying it. But I think he and my wife had an argument the other day because he's been very distant with her, and things just feel off. He's asked me about 3 times if I love him. Of course, I've told him there is nothing he could ever do to make me not. Yes, I've tried to talk to him about it, White, but he doesn't want to talk yet, and I need to respect that. I think pushing him could be a mistake. Thursday night, my wife asked if we could have a drink as I had to leave on Friday to see my brother. I had one, but honestly, it went right to my head and I just wanted to sleep. She kept trying to initiate intimacy, but I wasn't in the mood. I woke up Friday morning and my wife was gone. So was her suitcase. I've texted and called, but there's been no answer, other than a text telling me we'd talk about it when she's back. She ignored me and went on her trip regardless, and I am furious. I have left her some cash in the bank account she has the card to, but have removed everything else into another account. I had to call my brother why I wouldn't be coming to see him, and he arrived here on Saturday with my nephew and 2 nieces. The house is very full, but honestly, it feels more open than it has in a long, long time. The kids seem relaxed, and so do the dogs. I don't know what will happen with my wife, but I am done. I can't afford a lawyer right now, and unfortunately, I don't know any who could give me a deal or do me a favor, but this marriage is over. It should have been a long time ago. Now for some important comments. When asked if his wife might have undiagnosed health problems, including PPD, OP said, "I spoke to her doctor about the issues she was having because she would not. He asked her what was happening, how she was, and she would say the pregnancy was fine. She was having no issues yet at home. All I got was how hard things were, how ill she felt, how sore she was, screaming, yelling at me. I went into the bed because I am 6.5 and work a physically and mentally demanding job. It is not good for my body to sleep on a 2-seater couch. I wanted to sleep as I had work in the morning. She escalated and got physical, not me. She made the argument worse, not me. Undiagnosed PPD? She has been to her doctor who had diagnosed her with nothing. She told me so herself. And as for me knocking her up, it takes 2 people to create a child. We do not live in America, and my wife is pro-choice. If she wanted to terminate, she has the ability to do so. I told her after our second was born that I didn't think having more kids was a good idea, and she insisted. I said the same thing after our third and after my vasectomy, and she lost her mind. Let her go on vacation and feel like herself for the first time in forever. Did she not feel like herself when she went on multiple weekends away last year with her friends? Does she not feel like herself when she's hanging with the girls for lunch dates through the month? Do you know the last time I saw my brother in person? Before the pandemic. He is here to support me. If you want my wife to go on vacation so I can't, then it's perfectly reasonable that my brother can come to the home I pay for when I need him. Are you my wife? Now for the 6-hour update. Slight update? I'm not going to add this to the post as it's already long enough. Please excuse any spelling mistakes as I'm so tired. Thank you all, but I'm not in America. I know a lot of you have suggested I message her telling her I'm going to divorce her, etc., but I think I'm going to play it cool. Act like I've accepted her decision, so she's not on guard. I know she said something to my son, but he won't tell me what it is, and I feel like if I push him too, he might not ever. but my nephew and he are hanging out a lot. They're close, despite not seeing each other much, so I'm hoping he might confide in him and maybe open up. I'm not just letting this go. We will talk, but I don't want to push him too much. I am not a lightweight. I can drink, but I have been exhausted. And I mean very exhausted for some time now. And I think that maybe that's why I passed out after having one drink. But I would be lying to myself and to you if I said I wasn't suspicious. I am suspicious of a lot now. I swear, I'm not an idiot, but I really feel like one now. Some of you have suggested that I get the kids' DNA tested, especially my youngest, and while I know that this is likely something I'll have to do, it breaks my heart to think that they're not mine. My girls all look the same, just older versions of each other. So if I have to DNA test the youngest, I have to do them all. I never wanted kids. This is why I've always used condoms. I'm not the biggest fan of them, but I love my own. I love these kids. Regardless of the DNA test, they are mine. But I fear if it comes back that they're not, it could damage our relationship. My brother has read my posts and spent the last days telling me everything he hates about my wife, obviously not in front of the kids. He's pretty funny, and I feel like I haven't been able to laugh like this in a long time. He says he's going to make a Reddit account. Lord knows what he'll say. Writing this update has opened my eyes further. I see how the timing of wanting her to go back to work leans up with each pregnancy. But when these things are years apart, and you're concentrating on supporting the family and work, your brain sometimes pushes these thoughts away until something triggers them again, and boom, you're slapped in the face with the realization that your entire relationship is potentially built on a mountain of lies. She has her phone and iPad with her, so I can't check any of that, but I'm going to be going through her stuff. Is it an invasion of privacy? Likely. Do I care right now? No, I feel like I've wasted the majority of my life, the good years, and that feels horrible to say when I have 4 kids. I promise I don't mean that they're a waste. As I said in the post, this marriage is over. I am done. My kids deserve better, but I won't be alone when I confront her. As I said, she can get handsy, and no, I have never retaliated, and I don't want to be put into a position where I need to. I thank you all for your comments, your insight, your kindness. I know I haven't replied to many comments at all, but don't really have time to do so when there are so many, but I am trying to respond, etc. DMs, as that seems like the easier thing to do. I want to ask my sister-in-law what actually happened with my wife and that job, but I don't want her to know I'm suspicious. My sister-in-law is a kind woman, but she is my wife's sister, so her loyalties lay with her, I suppose, and I don't want to alert my soon-to-be ex. Does anyone have any ideas how I can do this? Seems odd to bring up a job my wife had for a very brief time years ago. I wish you all the best. Now for a few comments. When asked about the accusations for not respecting his wife's needs and wants, OP replied, "How do I not respect her needs, wants? I pay for everything and do the majority of the child pet care and housework. I have not gone on vacation in years because I was providing for my family. I have gave her everything she's wanted for the past 17 years, and she couldn't give me a weekend with my brother. Why couldn't we both go on vacation? Because I don't randomly have the money to fund 2 weeks away for her. I can't just up and leave my 16-year-old to look after 3 younger kids and 2 high-energy dogs. I couldn't take them with me, because that would mean multiple plane tickets and accommodations, food, etc. for them, as well as dog-sitting boarding for the dogs." Now for the new update. Hello all, I'm sorry it's taken so long to update. Things are not good. While this update will be small, I will try to do a longer one when things are a little better. Yes, we are separated and will be getting a divorce. My father-in-law has graciously offered to help. It's taken me so long to update because, as most of you already knew, some of the children aren't mine. My eldest, my son, is mine. My 3 daughters are not. I found out not long after my first update, and while I thought I could handle the news, clearly my body couldn't, and I had a heart attack. Thankfully, my brother was with me and called an ambulance. I am recovering, but Jesus Christ, it scared the shite out of me and my family. As some of you may remember, when my ex left for vacation, I took the majority of the money out of the account she used, but left some as I didn't want to leave her stranded. That money, about 500 or so, was gone in a few days. She used her own money that she's been making from OnlyFans to fund her trip. Yes, I'm serious. She has an OnlyFans account. My son had offered to take the dogs out for me during his lunch, free class time, and walked in on his mother making content in the living room. She told him that I wasn't making enough money for the family to survive and that she had to do the OnlyFans to help support us. She told him I was ashamed and embarrassed and that I would be very unhappy and hurt if he mentioned it. She told him that doing so could ruin our marriage and could lead us to divorce. My in-laws know everything, as my brother had to call them to help watch my kids while I was in the hospital. My father-in-law is furious, and my mother-in-law is just devastated. She keeps apologizing to me, like she's the one who betrayed me. My ex moved out. She tried to make me leave so she could stay in the house with the kids. But after a conversation with her father, she's renting a place. My eldest daughter and my son knows the girls aren't mine. My ex told them after they said they didn't want to go live with her at her new place. My mother-in-law was with them at the time and, according to my daughter, began screaming at my wife for her behavior. My youngest two don't know yet, but they will. This isn't something I can keep from them forever. They already know that something is up. I've cut my hours back at work and have been able to work from home. It's obviously a desk job for now, but I am thankful to my boss for working with me on this. I came home to find out that my mother-in-law and one of my sister-in-laws had cleared out my wife's hobby space and made it an office den for me. I am very grateful for their support during this. I know it can be easy to take the side of your daughter, sister's ex-partner during a breakup, but I appreciate them. While things aren't great by any stretch of the imagination, feel strange, things seem calmer without my ex in the house. There seems to be more laughter about the place, even the dogs appear more at ease. But I am so angry, which obviously isn't good for my heart. But I've wasted a huge chunk of my life raising kids that aren't mine in a marriage that was fricked from the beginning. Now please don't take what I said as me saying I regret my girls. I don't at all. They are smart, beautiful, cheeky little weirdos I love with all of my heart, but the betrayal stings. The fact that I've been working my butt off for years and she's been making thousands on OnlyFans and been keeping it to herself stings. I am ashamed, humiliated, embarrassed, angry, relived. It's a mess of M-toins in my head. But I know I'll get through it. Hopefully I need to for my kids and dogs. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer in the comments. Am I the idiot for calling out my fiancé for buying a 38 engagement ring when he makes $200K a year? My fiancé proposed to me a few weeks ago. It caught me completely by surprise, but we've been together for 3 years and things have been going great. So I was really excited and said yes. I really liked the ring when I first saw it, and my friends and family all think it is stunning. It's an oval cut with diamonds across the band. I asked where he got it, and he wouldn't tell me where, but that he got a great deal on it. I didn't think anything of it until yesterday we were in bed and I asked him if it was diamond or moissanite, mainly out of curiosity. I don't have a preference, Batawo. He said he didn't know and would have to look it up. When I glanced over at his phone, he was in the Temu app. I asked him if he got it from there and he didn't respond. So I asked again and he responded with something like, "Does it matter?" and left the room and ended up sleeping on the couch. I spent all night so confused. Today I decided to download the app and look up my ring, and I found one that looks identical. I found the exact ring and it listed at $38. I am mad. He makes good money, $200K a year, and I feel like he could have shelled out some money for a ring better than one on Temu. Am I the idiot for telling him I don't want it? Now for a few comments. Okay, I'm not mad that the diamonds are not real, but I worry about the quality of the ring because I imagine my engagement ring to at least be sturdy. It's fine for now, but I have a hard time believing it'll last longer than a year if it's $38 on Temu. Not the idiot, BC, that thing might turn your finger green. He's lucky you don't have a sensitivity to fake metals like some do. He makes good money, but bought a $38 ring. Is he cheap with other things, where this discount shopping isn't a new thing for him and he's just an all-around penny pincher? My first thought was, did he not spend the money because he doesn't expect this to last? Then OP replied, yeah, let me provide some more context. Really, he's never been overly frugal. I'm probably more frugal than he is. Neither of us are huge spenders, but we each make enough to not have to strictly budget or anything. We have our own accounts and split rent equally. I know he has at least $100K across his savings investment accounts. We go out for drinks a few times a week, and we'll go to concerts together and whatnot frequently. We travel a few times a year and stay in basic accommodations. Like our DoorDash the other night was $40. My ring costs less than DoorDashing dinner. Commenter, you are not the idiot. But what we all really want to know is whether or not you would still marry him if he replaces the ring. Then OP replied, the responses to this have made me even more confused. People saying it could be a loyalty test, that he doesn't want me to be able to sell it if we divorce, or that he doesn't plan to be with me for long. I have a pit in my stomach. I haven't considered breaking things off, but that was before I wrote this here. I was thinking maybe he was just not thinking or rushed getting the ring. Or maybe he genuinely thought he was getting a great deal on a high-quality ring. I'm not sure at this point. I plan to confront him when he gets back from work in a couple of hours. The response to this is just absolutely insane. Sorry, I'm having a hard time keeping up with responses. A few of y'all want to see the ring, so here it is if you want to look it up. I'm still waiting for him to get home. Seller LVZGM, 1 moissanite ring, women's wedding band, suitable for banquet party, official occasion, holiday, Valentine's Day proposal, engagement, wedding gift, anniversary gift, birthday gift with certificate. I guess it technically is moissanite. Now for the 6-hour update. After reading responses from my first post on the the idiot subreddit, it got taken down. I was freaking out a bit. He came home while I was FaceTiming a friend about this. I hung up with her and then talked to him for an hour or so. He apologized for sleeping on the couch and that he needed time to think. He doesn't see eye to eye with me on my concerns about the ring and says he did research and that it was highly rated. He says if the ring breaks, he will replace it, but didn't say it'd be higher quality. I have people messaging me that the ring could be harmful to my health and that Temu has horrible standards for their jewelry and labor issues, so now I really don't want to wear it. He left and went to his brother's house. Usually I'd go with him, but things are just tense. Am I the idiot for telling him I still don't want it? Now for a few comments. Commenter, kind of tough, because had you not found out it was from Temu, would you be upset? Then OP replied, Taba, if I hadn't found out it was from Temu, I probably wouldn't be upset. But when it inevitably breaks or tarnishes, the truth would come out. Now that I know, it has completely changed how I feel about the ring, even if it aesthetically doesn't look too bad. Did this come as a shock, or is he normally cheap and thoughtless? Then OP replied, he's not normally cheap or thoughtless. He's genuinely a great guy, which is making this harder to navigate. He started making me feel really guilty and materialistic today when we talked about this, and I can see his point of view, but I'm just confused. It feels like Temu is the bottom of the barrel. I'd be happy with a cheap, decent quality ring from Etsy or anywhere else. I don't really care about the price itself. It's more about the quality and feeling like he doesn't really value me the way I thought he did. I want to clear up these gold digger rumors because this isn't only about the cost of the ring. I only mention these things for context, not because I feel he owes me something in return. When I met him, I was making just over $100K, and he was working part-time and doing an internship bringing in significantly less than me. He totaled his car early on in our relationship, and I happily drove him to his work every morning on the way to my work when he didn't have a car. When his mom got sick and went on hospice, I immediately canceled all of my travel plans and holiday plans with my family and sat with him visiting her every day for months. I helped with funeral arrangements. I helped plan his brother's wedding. I even loaned him money for a new car once he started his new job. He did pay me back, but W. He moved in with me recently, and most everything in the home is mine that I paid for prior to the relationship, furniture, etc. I have paid for so many plane tickets for our travels, concert tickets, etc., that I've never asked him to pay back and never will. That's what a relationship is. I genuinely care for him. He has done similar gestures for me and is more than willing to spend money on dates. Believe it or not, I'm not this greedy woman sitting here excited to get his money. I have my own. We never went ring shopping. The proposal was a surprise to me. We'd casually discussed getting married in the future for the past year or so, but he never asked my taste in rings, so I was kind of thinking that had happened before the engagement. I actually liked the style of the ring, but now that I know it's from Temu, I can't look at it the same way. I'm literally just sitting here refreshing your comments trying to figure out what to do next. He texted to let me know he plans at staying at his brother's for the weekend and is taking Friday off. It's not crazy abnormal since he's been watching football over there, but I feel like he's avoiding me now. I'm trying not to be pushy about the situation, and I'll give him some space, but now I'm just in my head about all of it and regretting my initial reaction. It's just a dumb ring, and maybe I've read into it too much. The only other time we've had an argument like this, it was resolved within a couple of hours, so I'm not used to this behavior from him. Now for the next day update. He came home this morning while I was in a work-from-home meeting. These comments made my head spin all night. I got like 3 hours of sleep, so I admit I may be in the wrong for bringing up his finances, but I did the gold digger rumors. When we met, I was making more than him and often paying for his things. His high-paying job is a recent development. I have my own money and don't need his. I asked him what was going on, if there was anything he needed to tell me, if he was testing me by doing this. Well, that really set him off. What kind of person do you think I am? You think I'm a cheapskate, a liar? You obviously think really poorly of me. But still, he never gave me a reason. So I asked why he was deflecting every question to victimize himself and to avoid my questions. He tried to leave again. So I tried de-escalating and told him I see where he's coming from, but I need to know if he still loves me. He was immediately apologetic and still wants to get married. He said I can just pick my ring out and buy it with my own money. He said he's sick of talking about this and it's water under the bridge now. He's acting like his normal self again since this convo. I hear him out there skipping around and humming to himself, all happily, and it's actually pissing me off. Maybe I'm being dramatic, but I don't think I can handle a marriage with someone like this. Am I the idiot for telling my dad's condescending friend I hate him and refusing to apologize? I finally told my father's infantilizing friend that I hate him. Years ago, my dad met Harold through mutual friends, and they hit it off. I was 18 and in college when I met him, and we never had a close relationship. However, he always seemed to think of himself as a family friend and was extremely infantilizing and condescending towards me. Every time I saw him, I'd try to tell myself it wasn't that bad, only for him to prove me wrong less than a minute later. Harold would disrespect my boundaries, say things like, "You're not 19, you're a baby," while I was talking to other people, and patronize me, my education, or my hobbies whenever he had the chance. He always noticed that annoyed me, to which he'd playfully ask if I hated him. I always said no, but only for my father's sake. The final straw came the day Harold interrupted a barbecue to say, "I really like you, even though you're an impolite brat." I was 20 years old. I'd been quiet all day, working on a paper during the barbecue, but replied patiently and politely whenever anyone addressed me. And even if that hadn't been the case, I knew he didn't have the right to talk to me like that. After that, I started making an effort to avoid any events I knew he'd be attending. Yesterday was my father's girlfriend's birthday. They threw a small lunch party at my dad's apartment. I went there with my fiancé and our 6-month-old son. Harold was there. I hadn't seen him in months, but he still talked to me as if I was a dumb child. Never mind that I'm engaged, a mother, and 26 years old. I spent the whole party ignoring his helpful advice about me being too young to get married or be a mom. It helped that most of the other guests seemed to disagree with him. My baby spent most of the afternoon sleeping. There's a bassinet in my old room. He woke up hungry, so I went to breastfeed him and excused myself from the party for a while. I got back to jokes and comments, all from Harold, about how I was probably struggling if my son was managing to leech me away for so long. He went on to interrupt a conversation I was having with another of my dad's friends to question pretty much everything about my parenting. He doesn't even have custody of his daughter, by the way, and to make more comments about my age. I decided I couldn't take it anymore after he asked if I'd thought about giving my baby up for adoption. I got my son and told my fiancé we were leaving. We said goodbye to everyone except Harold. When we got to the door, Harold came to ask why we were leaving. I tried to make up an excuse, but he kept trying to make us stay. After a small back and forth, he jokingly asked if I hated him, and this time I said, "Yes, I do. Can we go now?" He didn't say anything, and we left. On the way home, my fiancé said he was proud of me. My father called this morning to say the opposite, and we had a small fight, but ultimately decided to drop the subject. I'm sure this isn't over, but if it keeps going, it won't be because of me. This is far from my proudest moment, and a small part of me regrets it, but I'm done with that guy. Now for a few important comments. I don't think Harold is in love with me. Harold didn't tell me to give up my son. He asked if I'd thought of doing so when I got pregnant. It was still an awful question, especially since he interrupted a conversation I was having with someone else, my dad's girlfriend's pregnant friend, who was asking about my own pregnancy and delivery, to ask it. I don't like making a big deal out of things unless necessary. If I'm uncomfortable, I leave. If I don't like someone, I avoid them. It's usually less stressful. The fight between me and my father ended when I told him about the adoption comment. I don't think he gets that's not the only reason I left, but it was definitely what broke the camel's back. I really don't need my father to stop being friends with Harold. He's a grown man capable of making his own crappy decisions. I never told my dad I hated Harold because I never thought I had to like him in the first place. He's my father's friend, not mine. And I've been distancing myself from Harold since I was 20, meaning I haven't seen him much in the last 6 years. My fiancé was on the other side of the room and wasn't listening to Harold's comments. I filled him in when we got to the car. He's 100% on my side. Now for the 1-week update. Hey guys, I wasn't going to write an update, but I just got some free time and I figured I'd fill you in. I'll start by addressing the very frequent assumption that Harold has feelings for me. I really don't think that's the case. His comments always came out as annoying and condescending, but never intimacy. But I will say that your comments scared the shoot out of me, and the fact that the general consensus was "fuck Harold" was weirdly heartwarming. I also want to add that while I did regret what I said a little bit, I never doubted I'd done the right thing. I think most of my regret came from the fact that my 8 years of keeping the peace were over. It took some time for the relief to sink in. Truth be told, I've been wanting to do this since the barbecue incident, which was when I went from "I don't like that guy" to "I can't stand that guy." My father called Harold the day after I made my previous post. When confronted about the adoption comment, he tried to twist it as him being genuinely concerned about me being a mom so soon, and that he didn't think I knew what I was doing. He did apologize to my father. I don't buy any of that. The next day, my dad told me about the call. He said I should forgive Harold for what he thought was an honest misunderstanding. He also told me I should apologize too, since I'd overreacted by telling Harold I hated him for such a small reason. Many of Harold's past comments were made with my father close by. It often happened in the middle of conversations with other people, so he'd be too distracted to register them. He also wouldn't notice them most of the time. My dad doesn't pay enough attention to anything that doesn't either concern or anger him, and he'll most likely forget it until he gets angry at something else later anyway. He's like a drug's head goldfish. We also have different definitions of what's offensive, so he'd never think they were a big deal. I told my father I wasn't exaggerating when I said I hated Harold, and that the adoption comment was far from being the only reason. I listed most of the condescending treatment and comments I could remember, including the ones from the party. He didn't remember any of them. I made it very clear that I'd hated Harold for years prior to the party and that I had nothing to apologize for. I then stated that I'm no longer coming to any events Harold is invited to. My father doesn't need to stop being friends with him or even stop inviting him to stuff, but he can no longer expect me to show up as well. I will ask him beforehand, and if he lies, I'll leave. My father called me dramatic, but I pointed out that I've been avoiding Harold for 6 years now, and no one even noticed, so it clearly wasn't a problem. I've only seen him a handful of times since the barbecue incident, and only twice for more than a few minutes, the lunch party last week and another party back when I was pregnant. It clearly didn't ruin my father's life. I'm not obliged to like his friends any more than he is to like mine. There was some back and forth, but he agreed to my terms. We spoke yesterday about something else, and he mentioned Harold was upset. I ignored that. I'm not going no contact with my father. Yes, I'm very well aware he's a jerk, and I came really close to cutting ties with him in the last few years, but I ultimately decided it wouldn't really fix anything. Maintaining my relationship with him has gotten a lot easier since I moved out, as we only see each other a couple times a month. He gets frustrated that I don't call or text much, but doesn't complain about it anymore. I don't see the point in going no contact with someone who no longer has any say in how I live my life. I'd rather just take note of what my father did wrong when I was growing up, and then make sure to raise my own kid differently. He's on thin ice, though, and has been for some time. He's not allowed to babysit, mostly because I don't trust him to spend more than an hour alone with a baby without falling asleep on the couch. I began pushing for him to start doing therapy back when I got pregnant, and he finally got started back in June. His behavior around me and my younger sister, who still lives between our very divorced parents, has improved a lot since, and I've made it clear to him that he won't be allowed near my son if he stops attending. This is the first time in my life my father has improved his behavior. It's hard to be hopeful, but I'm trying. And if I ever do go no contact with my father, it won't be because of freaking Harold. So that's it. Overall, I'm glad I don't have to deceive anyone anymore. My relationship with my father is rocky, but I won't dwell on it. My main responsibilities are my son, my fiancé, and my job, and that's not changing anytime soon. And to those who mentioned Jesus Christ Superstar and Blue Oyster Cult in my last post, has anyone told you you're freaking awesome today? Because you are. Now for a new update. Hey guys, wow, I can't believe it's been over a year since I last posted about this. I planned on updating some time ago. These past few months, I've been caught up in raising a toddler, getting married, yay, working like crazy, and rewatching Supernatural. Needless to say, I've been busy. Openly avoiding Harold has been working pretty well. My father has been respecting my boundaries. Whenever he invites me and my husband over for lunch or dinner, I ask who else will be there. If Harold's coming, he tells me. He hasn't lied so far and doesn't usually insist when I tell him I'm not coming. Since my last post, I've only seen Harold once at my dad's birthday party a few months ago. Yes, I knew he'd be there. My father promised he'd tell him not to talk to me. Also, some of my father's friends' kids, most of whom I used to babysit, would be there. I hadn't seen them in a while, and I love them more than I hate Harold. I ended up spending most of the party with my son and the kids. Harold didn't talk to me at all, so I guess my father was true to his word. My husband and I did catch him staring at us a couple times, but I decided to ignore it. I caught my husband staring back once, and the walking marshmallow I married actually managed to look threatening. I love this man. You know who did talk to me? Harold's girlfriend. Yes, he has one now. She interacted with me twice. First, she came over to coo over my son before making a comment about how he needed a haircut. Ha ha ha, I already hate you. Later, she approached me and said, "You're shy, aren't you?" I said no. She laughed and said, "Yeah, you're shy." She said all that in the same tone one would use to talk to a 6-year-old. I managed to keep my expression schooled. Otherwise, I would have told her I'm not shy. I just chose to spend the whole party with the kids because they were better company than her and her annoying-ass boyfriend. So yeah, Based on both my interactions with her, Harold's girlfriend is insufferable. In other words, they're perfect for each other. I don't have much else to add. My father broke up with the woman he was dating last year, long freaking story, and has a new girlfriend. She is not annoying or psychotic, and I actually really like her. They won't last a year. My relationship with my father is still not perfect, by the way, but it has improved. He's actually started apologizing to me a lot more often. I don't know whether it's the therapy or the fact that motherhood has apparently made me terrifying, but I'll take it and I'll give credit where it's due. He's a very good grandfather. I'm also glad my father is respecting this Harold boundary. I very much don't want this man in my life. Honestly, I'm pretty satisfied right now. My little boy is thriving. Part of me really misses the baby times, but I grow prouder and prouder every day. Getting to know my kid has been fantastic.